Home means something different to everyone. But with Rocket Mortgage, home can mean even more. It can mean a college education, taming your high-interest debt, even a renovation. We've made it easier than ever to use your home equity. That home you worked so hard for, now it can work hard for you. Call 800-4ROCKET or visit rocket.com to find out more.
Rocket Mortgage, LLC, licensed in all 50 states, and MLSConsumerAccess.org, number 3030.
We're honored and privileged to have an eminent doctor, psychiatrist, a well-known thinker on important cutting-edge issues on drug addiction in this country, Dr. Eric Braverman. Dr. Braverman is a graduate of NYU Medical School. He's a professor in medical schools across the country. He's a commentator on radio, television. He's written dozens, indeed, probably hundreds of articles on psychiatry and drug issues. Dr. Braverman, welcome to Let the Record Show.
Thank you. And let's correct one little thing on the record. I'm not board certified in psychiatry, and there's a good reason. Most of psychiatry relates to your total health and to your brain. So I looked, when I had a chance to be board certified in family practice, I focused in on neuropsychiatric medical research. Most people, we always say their brain is connected to their body and their body's connected to their brain. And we hope the two will sort of neck with each other, meaning kiss each other with better brain health, better body health, better body health, better brain health. And that's been my motto for over 40 years.
Okay. So let's talk about the large issue. Jesse and I have been talking about this, and we're very concerned about the drug addiction crisis in America. Where do you think we are? Where do you think we're going?
Well, we're in 1858 when John Brown showed up at Harper's Ferry and kidnapped Washington's relatives who were keeping slaves and arming for a Southern rebellion. And we're at the tipping point of a catastrophe because you're losing 100,000 kids, which is, besides the agony for the parents, is measured at millions of dollars per child, how it impacts the economy, how it impacts the emotions of families and schools. You are in disaster mode, literally, right now. It's a fentanyl crisis, and kids are overdosing because it kills you instantly. I mean, and you may not even know you're getting it. It's laced into ordinary things, and it's the tipping point of death.
Jesse.
We were going to talk about it, but we can talk about a little bit about that now. But, Doctor, what about the fact that now we've basically allowed for the recreational use drugs, and now we're getting these kids are getting, these drugs in gummies and in different types of delivery devices that are, appealing to them. They're like candy.
Listen, these are
working?
My papers, which I sent to Judge Weiner, I should send to you, is 200 research papers. All the time, marijuana is a gateway drug. Alcohol is a gateway drug. Ketamine is a gateway drug. Quaaludes are a gateway drug. Sedatives, the benzos they get from their parents, whether it's Xanax, Klonopin, whether they get nicotine early on, even eating incorrectly will be a gateway to more addiction. And anabolic steroids, they can be gateway. Psychedelics, which so many psychiatrists want this approved. I mean, this is the stuff that drove everyone crazy in the 60s and gives you lifelong potential psychosis. In fact, you can't even give a psychiatric diagnosis if someone uses psychedelics for 5 years because the brain is so injured, you don't know whether it's the brain injury or it's emotion. So you are so right. We are given the wrong message. When a country loses its values, it loses the value of its health care. And as one admiral says, you lose the value of your currency. So we're going to get into an economic crisis that's going to follow this loss of values in healthcare.
So is it fair to say then that one of the proximate causes of the situation is the loss of values and the failure of policymakers to understand these root causes and to address them?
You hit on it very much so. But, there's always proximal cause, long-term causes. When you plant a seed, the tree grows up and then eventually it could go into your neighbor's yard with the branches and then you trim the branches. But maybe you planted the root in the wrong place. So our roots are been planted in a high from drugs and things. They're always some form of the savior of the kids, instead of what I'm addicted to or what other people could be addicted to, reading. Others are addicted to the American founding. They were addicted to reading the Bible everywhere, and they were sanctified by it and benefited by the value of its wisdom. We have a society that's lost its core values, and now, worse, when I meet the kids, they're all they do is communicate by 30-second bits and bytes. That you can't read a sentence by reading the first half of it. So they have first half communication, let alone absence of paragraph, book reading. Most people don't know who Frederick Douglass really was. They don't know his speeches. They don't know Martin Luther King and his letters from Birmingham. They don't understand the greatness of Eisenhower's great speeches and lessons, and Teddy Roosevelt about getting engaged in society, let alone Lincoln's inaugural or the 272 words of the Gettysburg Address, which is so majestic that everyone quotes in our generation. So we have to go back and add a brain health checkup to every pediatrician, not just a vaccine checkup. We have to know their memory and their psychiatric status, and we have to help kids get better attention, not just take Adderall and Ritalin, which are good at times, but not just an amphetamine, because amphetamines are sometimes a gateway drug for the kids. So
Yes.
our treatments are worsening the kids.
Understood. Jesse.
One of the things that we've been dealing with since the legalization of marijuana is just take Manhattan or any street really now in New York. The people who are not interested in this, like myself, getting hit with these wafts of secondhand weed smoke. I mean, it comes to a point where I'm concerned if me or my son, who's about to get into a car, is going to get into a contact high on these issues. Where do you see the health effects about that type of secondary exposure to marijuana?
The secondary smoke has always been proven to be both a contributor to cancer and a contributor to our own poor health. They're not that overwhelming, but it's still proven that if a person's lives with a smoker, they get lung cancer. It's more significant rather than walking by it. But walking by it is still very unpleasant for those Americans who find the sobriety in the old-fashioned work, pray, love, play. And that is the old-fashioned cornerstone. And smelling dope all day long when you're moving around the city is a very dopey thing. In fact, we used to call it dope because the early studies on marijuana were proven to show lower IQ. And I don't know if you saw what happened last week. I have a book, by the way, on pediatric raising miracle children, but we had the lowest score since 1990 on math scores. Lowest scores that we've ever had. And math is actually the secret to a civilization. I mean, history of civilization, we're not going into all the details, but wherever cultures didn't understand how to do numbers 1 and 0, our whole computer infrastructure is based on what God is one, we're almost like nothing, and presto, you got a whole computer language. The history of math, whether you're doing in the Roman Empire, they did letters were numbers, and that confused everybody, and that was not good. And the Greeks didn't believe in imaginary numbers, and they didn't believe in irrational numbers. So how a civilization sees math is very significant, and we're sinking due to marijuana, and worse than sinking, the kids are dying because once they think they're safe with marijuana and it's legal, they take the message and they go get fentanyl. So the math IQ of the United States, if it gets diminished, is actually the whole scientific output of a country.
If you're having problems with your septic system and you're tired of spending so much money each year to have it pumped, then SeptiClean is the answer for you. SeptiClean is an advanced specially formulated blend of bacteria used in the treatment of home and commercial septic systems. The breakdown of waste in your system relies on biological activity of naturally occurring bacteria. SeptiClean restores the natural biological process in your septic system and boosts the existing biological activity. SeptiClean is completely safe on all plumbing and can help prevent expensive emergencies in pumping. SeptiClean has approximately 6 to 100 times the bacteria count of other leading off-the-shelf brands in a 1-year supply. SeptiClean comes in a water-soluble pack, which you flush down the toilet once a month with no mess or stress. Save time, money, and maintenance on your septic system. Find SeptiClean at Emporium True Value Hardware on Main Street in Sag Harbor, or visit micro-tab.com. That's micro-tab.com. Micro-tab.com. ShopBB.com.
Fellas, you know Degree Cool Rush deodorant, right? Well, last year they changed the formula, and guys were mad about it. One dude even started a petition. So guess what? Degree heard us, admitted they messed up, and brought the original Cool Rush scent back exactly how it was. And it's in Walmart, Target, and other stores now for under $4. So grab some and remember why its cool, crisp, and fresh scent made it the #1 men's antiperspirant for the last decade. Degree Cool Rush is back, and it smells like victory for all of us.
So what are the best solutions, Doctor, to this crisis that we're going through?
You know, look, I don't know if any of you are old enough to remember the movie On the Waterfront when a pile of bricks gets dropped. Get a doctor.
On the waterfront?
Get a doctor. Yeah, get a doctor.
I plead guilty. I plead guilty.
All right, well, get a doctor. He needs a priest. And the bottom line is, in this case, we don't need a legislator. We need a doctor. So we have to convince the 24 boards to get a brain health checkup on every kid. And the education department is not fluid with the pediatrics department. So they have to really care enough about the children to sit down and say, let's bring the heads of neurology from the major schools and psychiatry, the major schools. I used to work with Bob Kenkro, NYU. I was in their department. I was in Phil Steeg's department at Weill Cornell, and we have to agree on a brain health test. If we can't agree, then we need a drug czar to make the test. And most likely, you won't agree. Six major
support?
Doctors, 7 opinions.
Is there support for your theory about the brain health?
Oh, massive. In fact, I've worked with Nora Volkow, the head of NIDA, for 25 years. I worked previously with the head of the National Institute of Alcoholism, Ernie Noble, and they all felt that the brain tests complement that, but those are a little more expensive. The reality is you can get a psychiatric survey on a child, a pain survey, memory and attention survey, and a simple character and Myers-Briggs. It's unbelievable to me, 250 years after Ben Franklin invented his character test in his autobiography, that no school that I know of does a character test. No medical doctor does a character test. We have a restructuring of our approach to children. You deliver most babies head first, and the only way to deliver health care is head first. And when we rejected the Declaration of Independence that says that we're created in his image and that therefore we draw our rights from that concept, that we're going to live a life of sacred honor, and that we believe in nature's God, which means that science somehow is under God. Once you lost those values, you ended up with a healthcare system that delivers healthcare with vaccination first, checkups for diabetes, all of which are important. But what we all need right now in a crisis of 100,000 dead children is every single American child from 13 on getting a brain health checkup, and they're cheap. They can be put on an app. Instead of parents can actually block the social media, and they can say, you're doing your checkup on your brain health. And then once you get the brain health, everyone sees fun in it. And there's things you can measure. Like we used to measure with the heart disease epidemic in the 60s and 70s. We measured cholesterol, HDL and LDL. Now you can measure your brain age and your brain processing speed. Virtually every drug the kids are using, every bit of junk food, their lack of exercise, their lack of reading, all slows their processing speed to think in their mind.
Just amazing. Very insightful. Jesse, last point.
I was going to ask you about what we could tell parents and young people on how to do this. And you just mentioned the app, closing off some social media time from their kids to have them do this. But as we go forward, what about someone? I mean, how do we deal with this? It's so prevalent in our society now. It seems like it goes unchecked. What kind of other tools can we help give parents that are maybe listening right now and, their children are going to schools, elementary school, whatnot, or like my son who's going to college and he's going to see a whole different type of world. What kind of tools can us as parents give them that we haven't touched upon yet as they venture into schools, whether it be elementary, high school, and college in this new environment?
Well, they have their tests according to conventional educational tests. Then they need to go get their child, go to viacharacter.org, which is a character test I learned about from West Point, and I learned from Dr. Seligman at, I think, University of Pennsylvania. So it's called viacharacter.org. They need to get each child looking at the content of their character. They all got Martin Luther King Day off. Where's the content of their character tested, measured, and refined? look, all of us on the radio right now, the three of us, are always knowing that we find our faults and then we work to develop the opposite trait and to get better balance. Then you can go to attention.com. It's called Pay Attention or 1-800, and they can do a test. But they need a measurement because the kids get the Adderall, and guess what they do? They abuse it. Then when they can't get the Adderall anymore from a shrink, they go and they buy fentanyl. They buy what they think is a pain reliever, OxyContin online, and what they get, because you get a high initially from any pain reliever is a anxiolytic, meaning when you take a narcotic or a benzodiazepine like Xanax, you first get a relief from your stress. But instant relief, I mean, I get instant relief if I eat chocolate, but if you eat chocolate all day long, there goes your weight, your blood sugar, your pressure, and everything else. There goes your health. So delayed gratification is the most important message not being taught. Secondly, we have to get a measure of attention, memory, emotional, creative, and abstract IQ, these core measures, like 7 or 8 measures of the brain, and then for the rest of our life, a society that's looking to reach the state of sacred honor, which is our declaration, and a country that cares about its posterity, which is what we say in the preamble of the Constitution. And that's it. I'm certain I could do it, but I have to have, you have to have a bully pulpit to do it.
Well, Teddy
Roosevelt taught us a bully pulpit.
Well, we're very happy we shared our little bully pulpit with you today. This has been Dr. Eric Braverman, distinguished doctor, a great thinker on the issue of
and I have
brain
a book
health.
For anyone who wants to look at Miracle.
Tell us the name, please.
It's Trinity Broadcasting. They publish it. It's Raising Miracle Children, and it gives you all that information and more, and it's going to transform the way we raise our children. The United States has an obligation to raise its children for the future of the world.
You're absolutely right. Doctor, on behalf of Chairman Garcia and myself, I want to thank you very much for joining us today on Let the Record Show. This has been a very instructive conversation. We look forward to having you back. Thanks again,
It was
Dr.
my honor. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Braverman.
If you're having problems with your septic system and you're tired of spending so much money each year to have it pumped, then SeptiClean is the answer for you. SeptiClean is an advanced specially formulated blend of bacteria used in the treatment of home and commercial septic systems. The breakdown of waste in your system relies on biological activity of naturally occurring bacteria. SeptiClean restores the natural biological process in your septic system and boosts the existing biological activity. SeptiClean is completely safe on all plumbing and can help prevent expensive emergencies in pumping. SeptiClean has approximately 6 to 100 times the bacteria count of other leading off-the-shelf brands in a 1-year supply. SeptiClean comes in a water-soluble pack, which you flush down the toilet once a month with no mess or stress. Save time, money, and maintenance on your septic system. Find SeptiClean at Emporium True Value Hardware on Main Street in Sag Harbor, or visit micro-tab.com. That's micro-tabb.com. Micro-tabb.com.